How did humanity come to accept rectangular pieces of pulped trees as something to spend 8 to 10 hours a day working for? It's a pretty insane story. This change from hard currency like gold or silver is a really huge deal. Without it, we couldn't possibly have massive industrial and post-industrial economies we know today. This change revolutionized how we do business and forever altered how governments were financed. Learning about this massive change in how we as a species thought about money can help us reflect on our current historical shift from seeing paper as money to seeing bits, seeing digital ones and zeros as money. But before we can get the exciting story of people trying to convince other people that paper was worth something. To understand why this is such a huge deal, we have to discuss a bit about how we thought about money before paper. If we go way back to the beginning of society, we find trade. Before early humans even really settled down, there's evidence that, when we met, we exchanged things we had made or things we'd found. But as soon as humans started to cultivate the earth and form societies, we started to specialize, and that meant that we not only loved to trade, we had to. Now, often when we think of trade, we think of long-distance trade. We think of caravans loaded with exotic goods. But for our story, we have to talk about local trade. Because here's where we run into the problem of coincidence of wants. Or rather, we run into it everywhere. But if we fail to solve this problem at the local level, society breaks down and we can't have the specialized trades we need to run anything beyond the smallest gathering of people. So what is a coincidence of wants? It's the basis on which trade can exist. If I make shirts and you grow food, we can trade if we both want what the other has. If not, trade fails, wasting time and limiting options. This is the coincidence of wants problem. Imagine I'm a fisherman and you're a farmer, and let's say that we want to trade. Well, there's this problem: your harvest only comes in once a year. I can't trade you for a harvest you don't have yet, and all of those extra fish I caught today are going to be pretty rotten by the time you harvest. So we need to find a third good that we both want that we can trade for. But wouldn't it be convenient if there was some universal third good which everybody wanted and would trade for? Well, all money is a third good that doesn't spoil and that we all agree has value, thus becoming a unit of exchange, an intermediary good, by which all other goods can be traded. And while we often think of coins made of precious metals for this purpose, the truth is, so long as it's durable enough and hard enough to procure, anything can serve as money. Back in ancient China, money in the shape of tools and then knives became some of the first examples of precious metal money, and, my personal favorite, on the island of Yap, gigantic limestone donuts serve as money. We have lots of different possible types of pre-modern money, including the gold and silver coins that we so often think of when we think of money from the past. But all of these different types of money have one thing in common: they are what we call commodity money, because their value is in the commodity themselves. Like the way we feel gold has an intrinsic value for its scarcity and its uses. Now, that makes a lot of sense for currency. It feels secure and reasonable. However, if you're doing massive deals, it gets really hard to transport. And it's risky to transport across lawless lands. Commodity money is also often subject to debasing. Currencies based on scarcity are often subject to changes in the scarcity of the commodity on which they're based, which can be trouble when somebody finds a lot more of your currency commodity. When Spain started to import massive amounts of silver and gold from the Americas, all the precious metal-based currency in Europe started to suffer from inflation. After all gold coins weren't worth nearly as much since somebody had just dumped a huge new pile of gold on European shores. And as a government, or even a financial sector, when someone digging up a new pile of minerals means that you can't control your fiscal policy, then that's bad news. But those disadvantages are only easy to see if you're a head of state or working on the largest scale transactions. If you're just some average person in the street, when some well-to-do says that they want to take your grain in exchange for this nice slip of, is that paper? Well, you would be forgiven for thinking that you smell a rat. Join us next time as we finally delve into the origins of paper money and start to address this problem of people fearing to give up their outdated gold.